Hey, I'm Timmy Bauer. I'm a kids book author, founder of Dinosaur House. We turn industry leaders into kids book authors. Catch me this week on the Jesse T Show.
Timmy Bauer, what is up, brother?
Yo, Jesse, how's it going?
Man, amazing. Just was on your podcast talking a bunch of smack, hopefully giving some people
Yeah,
some insight. And
yeah.
it was great, man. How long you been doing your podcast for?
Uh, I want to say about a year. I've been podcasting for a really long time. I want to say 3 years. I don't know if that's a really long time. I'm going to do this a lot because I get nervous when I'm the one being interviewed. But yeah, I started my first podcast was called The Literacy Advocate. And it's the way that I connect with teachers because when you're a kids book author, the teacher relationships are super important. And I was doing that. I've been doing that for a few years. Started Purpose Driven Entrepreneur, I think a year ago.
Hell yeah, brother. And so what inspired you to get into doing your own podcast? Was it necessity so that you could plug into your essentially target market or people that could help advance the business?
Yeah, necessity first, and then realizing how much I love it. So, my best friend James Carberry wrote a book called Content-Based Networking. It's the idea that one of the easiest ways to take serendipity out of the equation of relationship building, because his life was transformed by this serendipitous thing where he met this entrepreneur that hired him, and he learned entrepreneurship working for this guy, then started his own company, etc. And he was like, is there a way to take serendipity out of the equation? So he started a podcast called Inspiring Awesome, where he just wanted to talk to anybody that he thought was awesome. And
Wow.
so he's just hitting up everybody that he thinks is awesome, asking them on this podcast called Inspiring Awesome. And pretty much everybody's saying yes. And then he has an epic conversation with them. They become friends. They start hanging out. And he's like, yeah, serendipity is out of the equation. So then the question is, can you make, as a business owner, can you make this work for your business in a way that's not slimy or squirrely? And I think a lot of people that have tapped into the realization that a lot of people will just say yes to a podcast are doing some slimy stuff. Uh and I don't know. I don't know where judgment should or shouldn't be. My thing is I've got a few groups of people that I want to be making a lot of real, true relationships in those groups of people. And so I've started a podcast for every group of people that I want to get in with. I'm probably about to start a podcast that is for developmental psychologists because I want to start getting to know some developmental psychologists. So I've got a show called Writing Better to Dr. Writers. I've got a show called The Literacy Advocate to meet teachers. And I've got a show called Purpose Driven Entrepreneur to meet with the types of people that could either become customers of Dinosaur House or know people that could become customers of Dinosaur House or could become mentors of mine or just generally would help me as an entrepreneur.
So there seems to be that kind of connective tissue of just plugging into the people that you want to seek out. And the way that you do it is through podcasting, which is what we talked about on your show. It's a beautiful way to connect with people. It's
Yes.
especially today's day and age too, with, just technology and, going through the pandemic to where, everybody had a different experience. Thankfully, I was here in Georgia, and it was a really easy experience for me. But I was at one time shooting episodes in my office in person with two cameras set up, and people were actually physically there. To where now all my content is coming through Zoom, and it's been a really easy way to connect with people in different parts of the world. So like I have people that I talk to in different time zones, different countries, and it's
Yep.
all because of this that we're able to do that. Although I do get the itch. I have all this equipment downstairs, and like I get the itch to do it back in person again. But it does give you a beautiful way to put out your thoughts, your ideas, to have people come on and share theirs. And it's been a beautiful way, like we talked about on your show, to have a master class on life. Like people, like you said,
Yeah.
that could be mentors, or people that could be friends, or people that can become clients. And it's been a beautiful, unique way to really operate in today's day and age.
Yeah, I agree. I think like more people should do it, even though it's going to just saturate the world with podcasts.
It's already
I
there.
think the reality is it's just a really easy way to start having conversations with people that you don't know.
What was your first foray into podcasting? Was it through Zoom? Was it in person? And like, how about talking about like what equipment you
Yeah.
needed and like the
Yeah.
process of the conversation? Like, talk about what it was like getting started.
I was so freaking nervous. So my best friend James, he's the one like pushing me to do this. He's like, "Bro, you got to start a podcast. It's so easy." Um I bought a blue snowball microphone, this one actually. this for it's audio, so I'll just describe it. It's a bright orange blue snowball microphone. And I downloaded this thing called Uber Conference on my phone. Uber Conference was, I don't know if it's still around. It was this tool that pre Zoom being like in everyone's consciousness. It was
Yeah.
a way that you could record conversations. And then I just started asking people that I was intimidated by if they'd be down to do an episode with me on my first podcast, Books for Kids. And I started interviewing successful kids book authors and also just anybody in that industry that I wanted to have conversations with. At first, I was thinking that like I could become a successful kids book author by interviewing other successful kids book authors and like kind of get in the clique. And there, not to say that there's nothing to the idea of like getting in the clique that you want to be a part of, but the reality is, or at least the reality was for me, the better strategy, and this turned out to be what I started doing, was no, let me start becoming friends with as many people as possible that fit the consumer of what I'm trying to do. So I'm trying to be a kids book author. Who is consuming that? Well, you've got parents and teachers, right? They're the gatekeepers of
Yeah.
kids books. And so I want to get into classrooms and I want to get into homes. I want my books in classrooms and my books in homes. So really it needs to be parents and teachers. And teachers just seemed a little bit easier to do than parents because one teacher is like 32 students reading your kid's book versus like one parent is like two kids reading your kid's book.